Welcome, dear viewers and students, to today's virtual learning class for the English language 12th grade students, which covers the Unit 10, Scientific and Literary Branches. My name is Jacob, and I'm the presenter here, and with the supervision and revision of Mrs. Lamakhawatmi, let's get started. The objectives of today's lesson are the following. Of course, you can pause the video anytime you want if you want to take more time to think. Let's get to the pronunciation on page number 102. Pronunciation. Let's listen and practice. Notice how the intonation rises and falls in questions. I'll play the audio and you'll see sentences appearing here. Let's start.
1. What's the time? Where do you live?
If you notice, there is something like music in the end of the question sentence. Let's play again.
1. What's the time? Where do you live?
So, the question starts with a rising intonation, then falling intonation. Sentence number 2.
2. Are you going to the party tonight? Have you got a pen?
So look at the question. This is yes/no question, so we have a rising intonation in the end. The second sentence is the same. Let's play again.
2. Are you going to the party tonight? Have you got a pen?
So this is a rising intonation. Okay, let's go for sentence number 3.
You're French, aren't you? He's very tall, isn't he?
So this is a yes/no question, but this is asking for confirmation. As you can notice that the intonation goes falling intonation. Example number 4.
4. You're French, aren't you? Your train leaves at 6, doesn't it?
So this is a rising intonation. It goes up. Why? Because it's a rising intonation in question tags. It goes up. Up. The last example.
5. Do you prefer reading poetry or prose? Would you rather be a doctor, psychologist, or an engineer?
If you notice here that we've got choices. When we have choices, we go up. Poetry, we go up. And then prose, we go down. The second sentence, we also have a doctor, up, psychologist, up, and then engineer. In the end of choices, when we have more than one choice, we go down in the end of the choices. Let's move on to the explanation.
What?
Follow me, please.
What?
Follow me in the student's book, page number 102. Let's find out about the intonation. What is the intonation? If you look it up in the dictionary, in any dictionary, you can see that the intonation is a rise and fall of the voice in speaking. So we have rise, it goes up, and falls, it goes down when we speak, like music. So we have, of course, in English, here this example explains it well. In English, some questions have a rising intonation, and some sentences have falling intonation. So, for example, we go up. How are you? What's your name? I start with a high music, I go up. Then what's your name? I go down. It's like music. Let's move on. This is again, follow me, page number 102 in the student's book. Intonation in questions. We have the explanation. In WH questions, when we have questions that ask about details, we use falling intonation. Falling in the end of the question. We go down. Falling intonation. The speaker's voice rises, then falls on the last content word. Of course, if being asked for the first time, or asking for information we don't know. The same example we have just talked about.
What's the time?
Notice here.
Where do you live?
What's the time? We go what's, we go up, and then time, we go down. Where do you live? We go up, and then we go down. Remember, in WH questions, we go up and then down. Case number 2. In yes-no questions, yes-no, remember? When we have a question asking about yes-no answer, we use rising intonation. We go up. Rising intonation, the speaker's voice rises on the last content word or phrase. If we are checking information we think we already know, our voice goes up in the end. So remember, up. For example,
2. Are you going to the party tonight? Have you got a pen?
so here we have up. It's rising intonation. And the same case applies for the second example. Have you got a pen? Have you got a pen? We go up. Case number 3. Question tags expecting confirmation. We use falling intonation. By the way, guys, this is tricky because we have got 2 cases for question tags. One with falling and the other is rising. Let's take a look.
3. You're French, aren't you?
So here we're going down.
Very tall, isn't he?
Isn't he? We're going down. This is, again, guys, this is question tags, falling intonation. On the other hand, we have question tags with rising intonation. Question tags again, but this time is less certain, so that means we're expecting an answer. Here we use rising intonation. For example,
4. You're French, aren't you? Your train leaves at 6, doesn't it?
in these 2 examples we have, again, it's a question tag. Guys, this is a question tag. But in this case we are we're less certain and we're asking the listener to give us an answer. You're French, aren't you? We go up. Your train leaves at 6, doesn't it? We go up. The last case we have in questions that offer choices. Choices means other options. Like if you have more than one option for the listener. The speaker's voice rises on the first choice. So we go up, 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 then falls on the last choice. So in the beginning we go up, and in the end we go down. Let's take a look at this example.
5. Do you prefer reading poetry or prose?
So remember, poetry, you
Would
go
you
up.
rather be a doctor, psychologist, or an engineer?
So doctor, option 1, psychologist, option 2, and engineer, we go down because this is the end of the options. This is called intonation, which is the music of the language. Now, pair work, of course, this should be done in class. Take turns asking questions in the box. The same intonation patterns we talked about earlier. Pay attention to intonation. Again, intonation is the music in questions. Give your own information when responding. I can ask you a question, the simple question of what's your name, right? So when I ask what's your name, it's a question, right? But it's not a yes-no question, it's a regular detailed WH question. So what happens here? What's your name? We have a rising intonation and then we have a falling intonation. What's your name? Another question, where do you live? Where do you live? So where do you delete? Do you live? In this case, again, we have a detailed questions of WH questions. So we go up, where do you live? And then we go down. Moving on to exercise number C on page number 103. Read the questions. Read the questions. Read the questions below, and does this intonation rise or fall at the end of each question? So here we are going to mark it as R and F. R means rising and F means falling. Keep that in mind. Okay, guys? The first one.
Do you like pop music?
So, do you think that this is rising or falling? You need to decide. This is a yes/no question, so it's a rising. So do you like pop music? Do you like pop music? So we go up. Number 2.
Would you like to walk or take the bus?
Here we have options. Walk, we go up, and then take the bus, we go down. So in the end of the sentence, we go down, right? It's a falling intonation.
The movie was great, wasn't it?
This is a question tag. Question tag, of course, we have 2 options for the question tag. When we are asking confirmation and when we are less certain. So of course, both cases are possible. Rising or falling, it's okay. Of course, in this case, it's falling, wasn't it? Number 4.
What time does the museum open?
This is a WH question. Do you remember? In WH questions, we go up in the beginning. What time does the museum open? So we go down in the end. So it's falling intonation.
People use first names here, don't they?
This is also a question tag, which is falling, of course, but of course both answers are correct in case if you're less certain. If you are less certain, it's rising intonation. When you're asking confirmation, it's falling intonation. Let's move on now to the activity book. Work with me, guys, just so you can follow me. Open your activity book, page number 82. We have also question asking about the arrows. These are falling arrows, and this is this is rising arrow, falling arrow. Let's follow me then. Draw the correct arrow above each question. You have to decide if it's a rising or if it's a falling intonation. Now, take your time. You can read it by yourself or read it with me anyway. Your parents are from Italy, aren't they? In this case, look, it's a question tag, right? So if you're less certain, you can go up. Your parents are from Italy, aren't they? Or if you're asking confirmation, your parents are from Italy, aren't they? So both are correct here. Rising and falling are correct. Number 2. You can read it by yourself or with me. Number 2, do you prefer to study nursing or education? Here we have option 1, option 2. So when we have options, we go up. Nursing or education? Do you prefer to study nursing or education? So we have up in the beginning and then falling in the end. Of course, here we have this or that. Both are possible. Number 3. Have you talked to a professor? This is a yes/no question, so we have rising intonation. Have you talked to a professor? Rising intonation. Number 4. Where was the article published? This is a WH question, so we start rising, then we go falling. So, where was the article published? Next one. Would you rather have tea, coffee, or cappuccino? Tea, up. Coffee, up. Or cappuccino, down. So this is the end of the pronunciation exercise in the workbook. Let's move on to page number 103 in the student's book, which talks about the grammar. Modal verbs, obligation and lack of obligation. You must have heard about these modal verbs before. Let's complete these sentences with should or shouldn't, must or mustn't, have to, don't have to, doesn't have to. So remember, should has specific reason. Shouldn't is the negative. We'll find out. Must is an obligation. Mustn't is a prohibition, or when something is not allowed. Have to is also an obligation. And don't have to or doesn't have to is the lack of obligation. Let's use this one. Let's think. Take your time. Which one of these 6 obligation modal verbs are used to express personal obligation? Personal obligation is already connected to must. So it's must is used to express personal obligation. Which one is used to express general obligation? Again, these two are really connected. They are similar, but this one is general. General means related to a law, a rule, or maybe at school or at work, or anything that is beyond our control. So this one is have to. So have to is beyond our control. Must is personal obligation. Number 3, which one of these modal verbs is used to give an opinion or a recommendation of what you think of something? When you give a piece of advice to a friend, it's should. Should. When I say you should stop smoking, if I'm talking to a friend, of course. Number 4, which one of these modal verbs is used to express negative advice? Again, it's a piece of advice, but this one is negative. Negative piece of advice. It's similar to this one, so it's shouldn't. Number 5, which one of these is used to express absence of obligation? Absence means lack of obligation when there's no obligation. So you are free. This one means you are free. You don't have to bring your own sandwiches. There's a canteen. You can buy sandwiches from here. So you don't have to. Lack of obligation. You are free. He doesn't have to bring any presents to his mother. It's not an obligation. He is free. He doesn't have to. Number 6, which one of these modal verbs means you are not allowed to do this? You're not allowed means it's prohibited. You can't smoke. It's against the rules. You can't wear shorts to school. Can you imagine yourself wearing shorts? Shorts to school? No, absolutely. Shorts are not allowed in school. So you mustn't wear shorts to school. You mustn't smoke at school. So these are the modal verbs. Let's read them again. Should for pieces of advice. Shouldn't for negative advice. Must is for personal obligation. Mustn't when something is not allowed or when it is prohibited. Have to is a rule. It's a rule by the government, by the law, by the rules at school. And finally we have don't have to or doesn't have to when you have freedom. When you have the freedom to choose what best suits you. Let's move on to an exercise. B. The exercise B, now complete the sentences with the correct modal verb. We have modal verbs again, remember? The modal verbs of obligation, as we have just talked about, and match them with the correct rules. These are the rules, do you remember? Must and personal, it's a good revision. Have to, which is a general obligation. Should, which is to provide a piece of advice or opinion and a recommendation. Shouldn't is a negative piece of advice. Negative advice. 5, doesn't have to or don't have to is used to express absence of obligation or lack of obligation. So you are free here. So that means you are free. Keep this in mind because we will need it. Mustn't means you're not allowed. It's absolutely prohibited. You mustn't smoke in school. It's against the rules. Now, let's match them. Match them with this. Let's take a look. This is, of course, guys, you can follow me on page 103 in the student's book. In Britain, number 1, in Britain, you drive on the left. Driving on the left is a rule, don't you think? So which one talks about a rule? Which one of these sentences is it? Number 1, 2, 3, 4? Which one? The rule is have to, because it's a general rule. So in Britain, you have to drive on the left. It's not an option. You're not free. You're not free to drive on the right in Britain. It's a must. You have to drive on the left. Number 2, he has a backache. Oh my God, his back hurts. He carry heavy things. Of course, it's not like the doctor telling the guys not to carry heavy things. It's his option. So it's better for him to not. So it's shouldn't. He shouldn't carry heavy things because this is a negative advice. He shouldn't carry heavy things. Number 3, I'm very hungry. This is personal. Look, it's not a rule. It's not a piece of advice. I eat something. This is personal obligation, which is a must. I must eat something. I'm very, very hungry. I'm starving. Number 4, you use your mobile phone in gas station. In a gas station, actually, it's very dangerous to use your mobile phone. So it's mustn't. It's very dangerous because this can cause an explosion. So it's absolutely not allowed. You are not allowed to use any mobile phone in a gas station. Remember, this is, you mustn't use your mobile phone in a gas station. This could be a sign in a gas station. It says you mustn't use the mobile phone in the gas station. Number 5, the pre-last sentence. Tom doesn't study enough. He study harder. This is not a rule, right? Studying is not a rule, and it's not something he's talking about himself. It's not his personal obligation. This is as if we were talking about someone else. So it's a piece of advice, right? So we're providing a piece of advice to Tom. So we say he should study harder. The last sentence, number 6, if he has a credit card. You know, credit card are a special plastic piece that we use to pay money with. So if he has a credit card, he pay for something in cash. So if you have a credit card, you don't have to pay in cash, right? So he can use the card. But because we use the personal pronoun he, we have to use doesn't. So if he has a credit card, he doesn't have to pay something in cash. He can use the card, right? So remember, guys, take your time, read these sentences again. It's really important to understand the difference between these modal verbs. Let's move on then to the example. A really nice exercise about a squash club. Have you heard of this sport, squash? Squash is somehow similar to the sport of tennis, but they play it indoors. This is the squash pitch. And let's see the rules. So this squash club in London has decided that it is important for all club members to do these things. So we have rules, okay? Keep that in mind. It's rules. Wear sports shoes and clean clothes. You have to wear clean clothes. You can't go stinking to the gym. Rule number 2, have a shower. Again, it's really important, and it's a must, and it's a rule. Number 3, pay before you play. Money is important. You can't play for free. Number 4, finish on time, be punctual, and respect the time. Now, the things that you're not allowed, remember this is what? This is negative prohibition. Disturb other players. You mustn't disturb other players. You mustn't annoy. Disturb means annoy. You know, annoy? Like bug other people, or make them upset. Next, take club balls home. Of course, you can use the balls already existing in the club, but you please don't steal them and take them back home. You can bring your own balls if you want, but keep the club's ball, the balls of the club in the club. The last rule is eat or drink outside the canteen. The canteen is like some small cafeteria where people eat. So you are not allowed. You are not allowed to eat outside the canteen. You're not allowed to take the balls back home, and you're not allowed to disturb people. Let's start with the sentence. Disturb people, other players. Disturbing people is not a good thing, right? Disturbing players is not allowed. You're not allowed. You're prohibited. But you be silent. Of course you can talk, right? It's not like the silent zone. It's not like a library or study zone. So you can talk. So talking is allowed, but disturbing people is not allowed. So here in this case, you mustn't disturb other people. This is a prohibition, but you don't have to be silent. You have the freedom to talk. You are free to talk, right? So remember, don't have to means free. You are free to talk. Sentence 2. You finish on time, but you start on time. Finishing on time here, it's a must. So you must finish on time. It's a rule. But starting on time, it's okay. You don't have to start on time because you are free. You can come whenever you want. Sentence 3. You play with the club balls. Of course, you have club balls. You can play with them. But if you do, take them home. Oh my God, can you take them home? Of course not. You can't take them home. So you don't have to play with the club balls because you can bring your own balls. But if you do play with the club balls, please don't take them home. So you mustn't take them home. Take them home is what? is not allowed. You're not allowed to take them home. So this is mustn't. You mustn't take them home. Sentence 4. You eat or drink outside the canteen. Remember, the canteen is like a cafeteria. So you mustn't eat or drink outside the canteen. You mustn't. But you don't have to buy food, because you can bring your own food if you don't want to, or sometimes you don't need to eat in the beginning, in the first place. So you are free to buy or free not to buy. So remember, don't have to, you are free. Number 5, you have a shower. Haha, look, having a shower is a must. So you must have a shower. And you must wear clean clothes, because these two are very necessary. Taking shower and wearing clean clothes are very important. Now, I hope you get it really well, because this shows the difference between the obligation modal verbs. Let's move on to the workbook. This is page number 83 in the workbook. Please follow me to understand and get a better understanding of the difference. We have on page number 83 the grammar file, the modal verbs in the affirmative. Affirmative means that this is a positive sentence. We have must. We talked about must. It's a personal obligation. Have to is a rule, a law, or outside or beyond our control. Should is a personal piece of advice. Advice, remember, advice. Now, we use must. Of course, these are all obligation, right? Like, take a look here. It's an obligation. Must is an obligation. Have to is also an obligation, right? But this obligation, must, comes from the speaker. So it's personal, right? So we use it for written rules. Plus, so it's personal plus. We use it for written rules and instructions. When you are in a gym, in the airport, in the gym it says you must take showers. In the passport center it says you must show your passport. And giving opinions and saying what is necessary. It is necessary. I must remember my mother's birthday. I must bring her a birthday present. I must. So it's personal. Number 2, have to. It's an obligation, but comes from the outside. As we said, it's all about laws or rules. Should is about advice or recommendation. When I say you should study harder, it's just a piece of advice. You can take a look at the examples. Must. Read with me, guys. Passengers must fasten their seatbelts. It's not a piece of advice. This is a must. They must fasten their seatbelts before the plane sets out or flies, leaves the ground. So the passengers must. It's a must. It's a rule. It's an obligation that is imposed by the airline who wrote the notice. It's a written instruction. Exercise 2 or sentence 2. I haven't spoken to Sandra for ages. I must call her. This is a personal obligation. I must call her. It's not a rule. It's a personal obligation. Have to. On the other hand, we have to get up early tomorrow to catch the plane. We have to, because if we don't, we'll miss the plane. The time of the plane is the reason for the obligation. It's not personal. It's not my freedom to go and catch the plane. It's the rule of the airline company. Now, should. Finally, we have should. You should apologize to the boss for being late. Here, this is a piece of advice. It's not a rule, right? It's not a general rule. It's not a personal obligation. This is a piece of advice. You should apologize. You should get a good map of London before you go there. You should get a good map of London. It's a piece of advice. It's a recommendation. Now, this case is the affirmative case. Now, what about the negative case? The negative, we simply add not, right? So mustn't. Have to, we have to add an auxiliary verb, so it becomes don't have to or doesn't have to. Should, of course, as you know, shouldn't. Let's see the usage. Mustn't is not the same as must, or is not the same as don't have to. Mustn't means not allowed. Remember, this is very important. Mustn't means not allowed. It means you're not allowed or you're prohibited. It's prohibition. You mustn't smoke in class. You mustn't wear shorts to school. Number 2, don't have to means lack of obligation or absence of necessity. Lack of obligation. So you are free. You are free here. You don't have to buy your sandwiches. You can bring sandwiches from home. The last one we have shouldn't. To advise people, this is 4 pieces of advice. To advise people not to do something, usually because it's bad or wrong. So it's either advice, a piece of advice. And examples, you can read the examples. You mustn't wait here. You're not allowed. Maybe it's a security zone. Maybe you can't wait here because there's a hospital parking here. Don't have to. You don't have to wait here. You're free. It's not necessary for you to wait here, but you can if you want to. No obligation. So you are free, remember? You don't have to wait. You can wait if you want. Last one, you shouldn't smoke. Again, this is a piece of advice, not a rule. On the other hand, we have the past form of these obligations. To express obligations, in the past we use had to. Had to. I had to report the incident to the police after the accident. I had to. So had to is the past tense of have to and has to. But in questions we use did you. Did you have to? Remember? Did is followed by the infinitive verb. So did you have to get a visa? Did you have to bring me that present? Number 2. To criticize actions in the past, use should and perfect infinitive. Should, of course, as we agreed before, plus we use perfect infinitive, which is have. And then infinitive means past participle. So it's have pp. So, for example, I should have stayed at home. Should have stayed. I should have stayed at home. What does that mean? It means that the subject did not do the right thing. Oh my God, I regret it. I should have stayed at home. It rained really badly yesterday. It rained cats and dogs yesterday. I should have stayed at home. I didn't stay at home and my behavior was wrong. I regret it. I am sorry for that. I am sorry for not staying at home. So I should have stayed at home. I should have remembered my mother's birthday. I didn't remember. I'm sorry for that. I should have. Number 3. Must again, but this time is perfect infinitive. Instead of should have pp, it's must have pp. So is not used to talk about past obligation. No, it's used for making deductions. When you deduce something, we say a possibility. She must have left early. This is a possibility. Where's Rima? I don't know. She must have left early. This is not an obligation. This is a possibility in the past. Possibility. Possibility in the past. So she must have left early. Let's move on and find some more examples. Let's move together to the workbook, page number 84. Here we have a conversation between Chris, who is going to Carstairs College in Scotland, Carstairs, and Miranda, his friend, who is already studying there. Cross out the modal verb forms that are wrong in this conversation. Chris, can I ask you a few questions about Carstairs? Miranda, of course. This is Miranda saying, sure, go ahead. Chris, do I must or do I have to wear a uniform? Actually, in this one, uniform is what? You know, the uniform that some colleges or some schools, they wear uniforms, like special united forms of clothing that they have to wear during the academic year. So uniform, wearing a uniform is a rule, right? So it's a have to. So this one is wrong. So do I have to wear a uniform to Carstairs College? She says, no, but you dress smartly. Dress smartly means like elegantly, like dress well in a nice way. You can't wear jeans to the college, or shorts, of course. So this is a personal obligation, right? So it's a must. So you must dress smartly, not this one. My laptop computer with me. Must I take my laptop computer with me, or should I take my computer with me? It's actually, it's a should. Should I take my computer with me? Because it's not a personal obligation. This is as if he's recommending to take the computer with him. Miranda answers, no, you don't have to, because you are free, of course. You can bring the laptop, but of course, you don't have to. You have to write your all essays by hand. So no computer needed, but you can take it if you want. You are free. What? Use email? So here, I have to use email. It's not, I don't have to use email. Of course, he uses emails a lot, so I have to use email. No, I'm afraid not. Carstairs is very old-fashioned anyway. When are you leaving? I don't get a ticket for the train this evening. I should have reserved, or I must have reserved a seat. Do you remember should have is an obligation in the past? Must have is a possibility in the past. So in this case, it's I must have reserved. I must have reserved a seat. I should stand all the way to Scotland, or I have to stand all the way to Scotland. It's not a piece of advice, of course. It's I have to stand all the way to Scotland. Should I or must I give you a ring? Give you a ring, just like a quick ring, like call you in the morning after I see how things are going. So she will call him. This is not a must. This is a recommendation. She's recommending to give him a phone call. Chris, sure. One more thing. Can I use my mobile phone at college? Yes, don't worry, but you should or you must switch it off during the school day. Of course, this is a must. Of course, it's not a piece of advice. It's a must to switch off your phone during. So this is the correct answer. Can you give me any more advice? Yes, you should visit the lake near the college. It's beautiful. This is a recommendation. So this is wrong. Guys, again, take your time. You read it carefully. Study this conversation and find out the difference between the modal verbs of obligation. Let's go for the, again, workbook. We're still there. Page number 84, exercise C. Look at the signs and complete the sentences with mustn't, don't have to. Again, these two are negative. Remember, mustn't is when you are not allowed. Don't have to is when you are free. So you can do it or not. It's up to you. Look at the signs. You are in a library. No talking. You are not allowed to talk. Please leave books on tables. So you can leave the books on tables or not, or you can put them back on the shelves. So it's up to you. You are free here to leave the books on the table. The next one, antiques. Antique shop that sells old things. Please feel free to come in. You are free to come in. So it's not an obligation. No eating inside, please. No eating inside. Remember, this is not allowed. Entry possible. This is in an event. 30 minutes before the concert. So possible. You are free to come in 30 minutes before the concert. But no late arrivals allowed. You're not allowed to come in late. Number one, talk in the library. Do you think that it is possible to talk in the library? No. No talking in the library, man. So we can just simply say, well, you mustn't. So you mustn't talk in the library. You mustn't. You put the books back on the shelf. Here it goes mustn't. Okay, guys? Because it's not allowed for you to talk. You put the books back on the shelf. Here they said, leave the books on tables. So you are free to leave them on tables or put them back on the shelf. So you are free here. So you don't have to, right? Number three, you go in for the antique shop. You are free to go in. So you don't have to go in. Eat inside. Please don't eat inside. This is not allowed. So you mustn't eat inside. 5, you arrive half an hour early. You don't have to come early. You don't have to come early. You have the freedom to come early or not. Number 6, arrive late. You're not allowed to arrive late, so it's a mustn't. So here are the answers. Of course, think of every and each one of these sentences carefully. Let's move on to page number 85 in the student's book. in the workbook, sorry. Here's the work plan of the information office at Heathrow Airport. It's an airport in London, Heathrow. It's a very famous airport for the last weekend. If someone didn't work, there is a comment about the reason. So you have a list of staff members. From the information of the table, in the table, write complete sentences using had to in the past, didn't have to in the past, or should have in the past. So 1, 2, 3, all in the past. But remember, keep that in mind. After had to, we have infinitive verb. Didn't have to, infinitive verb. Should have is followed by PP. So PP, keep that in mind. This is very important. Let's get started. This is the table. We have Saturday and we have Sunday. Remember, this is in the past. On duty means they are working days. And comments, what comments the boss has. And Sunday we have the same case. We have the names. Jenny, she worked. Brian was ill. Joanne, ill. Daniel worked. Colin worked. Mary appeared to work. Derek didn't show up, and Carol didn't show up. Let's see the examples. Follow me, guys, on page 85 workbook. Jenny, Saturday. Let's take a look. Jenny here on Saturday. What happened on Saturday? She had to work, right? So Jenny had to work on Saturday. Simple. Colin, where's Colin? There's Colin. This is Colin. Colin had what day? Saturday. Saturday didn't. He didn't have to work on Saturday because Colin doesn't have any shift on Saturdays, so Colin didn't have to work on Saturday. Carol on Sunday. Actually, Carol on Sunday, Carol had to work, but she didn't, right? She should have worked on Sunday. So remember, should have, and then PP, remember past participle. Carol should have worked on Sunday, but she was ill. Let's find out other cases. Colin on Sunday. Where's Colin? This is Colin. On Sunday. What happened on Sunday? He had to work, right? So Colin had to work on Sunday. Joanne on Sunday. There is Joanne on Sunday. No, he didn't have to. Didn't have to work on Sunday. Derek on Sunday again. Where's Derek? There's Derek. He had to work, but he didn't. He should have. Derek should have worked on Sunday, but he was ill, so he didn't show up. Number 4, Mary, Saturday. There's Mary, Saturday. See, she didn't have to work. She didn't have to work on Saturday. Exercise, sentence 5. Brian, on Saturday. He should have worked on Saturday, but he was ill. Look, Brian, on Saturday. He should have come, but he didn't. He should have worked, but he didn't. Daniel, on Saturday. Again, Daniel is here. He had to work on Saturday. Joanne on Saturday. Where's Joanne? Yes, there is Joanne. This is Joanne. Joanne should have worked on Saturday, but she was ill. Derek, number 8. Derek doesn't. Look. Doesn't have to work on Saturday. Look. He doesn't have to work on Saturday. Hold on a sec. Derek on Saturday? Yes, because it's a Sunday here. He works only on Saturdays. So Derek doesn't have to work on Saturday. I hope you like this exercise and now you understand the difference. Let's move on to the next one. Everyday English. We're done with the grammar. Expressing surprise. Read and listen to the following dialogue.
Jack's got a new job.
A new job? Good for him.
Apparently he's promoted.
Is he? How amazing.
Yes, he told me that last week. He's going to work in the main office.
In the main office? That's interesting.
Yes, he's travelling to Spain tomorrow.
Oh, that's incredible. What about his family?
They're travelling with him too.
Are you serious?
Sure, they'll have a flat in the centre of Madrid.
You're kidding. I'll call him now.
If you notice, there are some bold sentences in bold, like a new job with a question mark and exclamation mark. Is he? Question tag. Like as if surprise, showing surprise. How amazing! Exclamation mark. In the main office, again, question, expressing surprise. Oh, that's incredible. Look, surprise. Are you serious? As if on not believing something. You're kidding. Yeah, like I'm saying, I don't believe you. Get out of here. These phrases are used when you are expressing surprise, like shock, when you're shocked about hearing something. Let's use these sentences. Can you see these phrases? Questions? We'll use these sentences or phrases in the following exercise. Keep this in mind. Is he? How amazing? Questions? That's incredible. Are you serious? And you're kidding. Let's use these phrases in the coming exercise. Now, assessment. Choose the correct surprise expression for the following situation. Your brother has won the lottery. You know the lottery, look how happy he is. Yeah, he won the lottery. How much? 100,000. Wow, that's a lot of money. Now, your brother has won the lottery. We've got three options. A, B, C. Has he? You're kidding. I need your help urgently. Is it necessary to book in advance? Which one do you think it is? Is it B or C? If you say it's B, it's wrong. What about C? No, you say, oh, has he? You're kidding. So you're kidding to show surprise. Let's go for the next one. A friend won a school competition last week. School competition, you must be happy for him. I'm sorry about what happened. It sounds a bit risky to me. Number C. Oh, that's incredible. Which one do you think it is? Is it A? Nope. C? B? Or maybe C. So when you want to show surprise, you say, that's incredible. I'm happy for him. Now, last one, choose the correct surprise expression. Look at this family. Your friend's family is going to spend their holiday on the beach. Look at this. You hurt my feelings. Are you serious? How amazing. I think this is number B, right? Don't you think? That's right. Now, moving on to something new. Listening. Read the saying and discuss the questions. When in Rome, do as Romans do. Of course, Rome, you know that Rome is the capital of Italy, right? What do you think it means? Doesn't mean we're the same. Maybe it does. What does the saying mean? When in Rome, do as Romans do. It means when visiting a foreign country or a foreign land, follow the customs of those who live in it. So foreign land means a different land abroad, when you go abroad. Do you agree with it? Why or why not? You must have heard about this famous footballer, Cristiano Ronaldo, who traveled to Saudi Arabia and settled there. Look at him. Look at his partner and his family. They have adapted to life in Saudi Arabia, so they have started following the customs of the people in Saudi Arabia, right? So his partner is wearing a decent clothes, some decent clothes and modest clothes as well. So this is really important. When in Rome, do as Romans do. Keep that in mind. Now let's listen. Listen to a radio show about different customs around the world.
Our show today is about different costumes around the world. In the United States, as a way of showing gratitude for waiter service, it is expected that people leave between 10 to 20% of the bill on tips. In South Korea, employees in the food service industry are given fair wages, and it is insulting to attempt to tip them. In many cultures, it is a right to ask for salt to add to your food, but if you are dining with friends in Egypt, keep in mind to avoid asking for salt. It is taken as an insult to the host, as Egyptians take it to mean that you don't like the taste of the food. Don't show up on time in Venezuela. Looks like Venezuelans aren't like the British people, are very punctual and make a great effort to arrive on time. Reaching on time is considered rude in Venezuela, and it is recommended to reach at least 15 minutes later than the scheduled time. Early or in-time guests are viewed as being too eager or even greedy. Avoiding using red ink in South Korea is based on their history and costumes. Red ink was used to write down names of dead people on the family register. Whereas in Mexico, it is better to stick to the traditional red rose rather than yellow rose, which means death in Mexican culture.
So these are different customs in different countries around the world. Let's find out. Match the country with the suitable behavior. In the United States, we heard something about the tips, you know, when you go to a restaurant and leaving some money after you pay the bill. In South Korea, they don't take bills, they don't take any tips because their salary is good enough. Number 3, in Egypt, they talked about something related to salt and asking for salt. Venezuela, about time. And Britain, about being punctual and right on time, on the contrary. Mexico, about flowers. Now, let's match them. Don't ask for salt when dining. Of course, salt, we talked about Egypt. Arrive on time. It's very important in Britain to respect the time. There's also the tea time in Britain. Arrive later than the originally planned. This is in Venezuela, because if you show up on time, you would show that you are greedy and cheap. Don't gift a yellow rose in Mexico. You're not allowed to gift yellow rose because it's related to death. And last one, leave between 10 to 20% of the bill in tips. This is in America. You leave some money of the bill when you finish your meal. Finally, avoid using red ink for writing names of your friends, because red ink, ink, this is ink. When you use red when writing, this is in South Korea because it's also related to death. Let's move on to another fun exercise around the world. Listen again and write the names of the countries with contrasting customs. Ready?
Our show today is about different costumes around the world. In the United States, as a way of showing gratitude for waiter service, it is expected that people leave between 10 to 20% of the bill on tips. In South Korea, employees in the food service industry are given fair wages, and it is insulting to attempt to tip them. In many cultures, it is a right to ask for salt to add to your food, but if you are dining with friends in Egypt, keep in mind to avoid asking for salt. It is taken as an insult to the host, as Egyptians take it to mean that you don't like the taste of the food. Don't show up on time in Venezuela. Looks like Venezuelans aren't like the British people, are very punctual and make great effort to arrive on time. Reaching on time is considered rude in Venezuela, and it is recommended to reach at least 15 minutes later than the scheduled time. Early or in-time guests are viewed as being too eager or even greedy. Avoiding using red ink in South Korea is based on their history and costumes. Red ink was used to write down names of dead people on the family register. Whereas in Mexico, it is better to stick to the traditional red rose rather than yellow rose, which means death in Mexican culture.
So this is it in tipping. Do you remember tipping is the money you leave at the end of the service? So to show gratitude, when you are thanking the person, or gratitude means thanking someone, is the United States. So in the United States, you are allowed to show gratitude through giving tips. So this is tips, right? But in South Korea, oh my God, you're not allowed to give. It's not allowed. You mustn't give tips in South Korea because their wages and their salaries are good enough. Being punctual, on punctuality in Venezuela, please don't show up on time because it means that you're greedy. Greedy means like you're cheap, you want more, you want everything. In Britain, however, is different. You are punctual. It's important to show up on time. The flowers, do you remember we talked about red flowers and yellow flowers? In South Korea, red means death, and yellow in Mexico means death. Oh my God, like different cultures, different habits, and different beliefs. This is the end of our lesson today. Thank you guys, and I hope you had a good time. Bye-bye.